Hello, this is Gil Cargill. In the next 25 or 30 minutes, I'm going to walk you through the basics of selling your prospects and your customers from your home office. Obviously, recent changes in our economy have prompted the need for us to continue selling, but we can no longer visit our prospects. This may or may not change in the reasonably foreseeable future, but I predict, and I hope you'll see by the end of this presentation, that remote selling is really going to be the way to go for most sales forces far into the future. Let's get going. By way of introduction, I have been a sales coach and consultant since 1978. I've worked with over 7,000 business to business sales forces, and as you can see, I've been on the cover of many magazines and gained many rewards because of my unique approach to helping sales teams grow their top line. This concept of selling from the home is something that I've done basically since I started. There are some differences between selling from the home or your home office versus selling face to face. But as you'll see, you can overcome them and it will help you make more deals and more money. One of the reasons that I feel that the buying process will remain the way it is and therefore our selling process needs to change is that many buyers have told us that 84% of their decision is made before they have any interaction whatsoever with the salesperson. Buyers, again because of the economy and again because of changes in the world, are more risk adverse today than they've ever been. They don't take chances like they used to. They want a sure bet, and in order to get to that point of making a decision that is a sure bet, they need to have a great relationship with the seller. Now, in the old days, a great relationship meant a lot of handshakes, a lot of lunches, perhaps some football games, golf matches, what have you. Today, those relationships are being built and maintained utilizing modern technology. I don't want you to be the proverbial salesperson that's a day late and a dollar short. In other words, while you're driving, let's assume that we go back to the way you used to sell. While you're driving to an account and while you're visiting that account, many of your competitors can make multiple calls on the same account without leaving their homes or their home offices. Buyers, generally speaking, are very hesitant to take meetings with new salespeople with or without any external influences. The buyers today are just too busy to take meetings. And buyers know, and candidly, salespeople know, that a face to face meeting is a lot longer than a phone meeting or a telemeeting utilizing video platforms. Part of that is because we like to chit chat. And in the old days in sales training, they said before you get into your presentation, talk about something on the buyer's wall, his fish, his pictures, whatever. In today's world, the buyer doesn't want to chit chat. They want to get down to business. Teleselling and or phone selling both eliminate that problem. Now, very much like face-to-face selling, selling from your home office is dependent on two keys. You have to manage the volume of opportunities going into your funnel, and you have to manage the velocity of those opportunities going through the funnel. When you master selling in a distance mode, in a remote mode, you'll be able to dramatically, and I want to emphasize that word, dramatically increase the number of opportunities you work with. In other words, we're going to geometrically explode the volume of opportunities in your funnel. And they will go through the funnel more rapidly because you're going to be far more efficient. Now, part of the secret sauce is to increase your marketing footprint. And I'm going to talk about that quite a bit throughout this presentation. By the way, I need to point out that this presentation is one of about 65 presentations that I've put on my learning platform. So I'm going to refer to many of those other presentations during the course of this presentation, and if you want to take advantage of those, just let me know and we'll enroll you in those other training programs. But reach and frequency are the keys, the mathematic keys to determining your marketing footprint. Simply stated, the more people you reach times the frequency of reaching those people, the bigger your footprint. The bigger your footprint, the more leads you'll get. So remember, I talked about volume in the previous slide. Let's make sure that we get maximum reach, and I'm going to show you how to do that, and then touch everybody in your desirable database as often as possible. In order to do that, you need to get ready to have some tools at your disposal. LinkedIn is one of my favorites, especially LinkedIn with its optional Sales Navigator. This allows you to really do some in-depth research into some of the accounts that you want to sell to. Many people have mastered the ability of utilizing LinkedIn to gain referrals from someone you know to someone they know, and that person is a decision maker or an influencer at an account that the salesperson wants to penetrate. Facebook is another vehicle for that activity. But let's not get too drawn into the world of social media marketing because at its heart, waiting for people to find you is what social media can do. It says, I'm here. If you want to talk to me, talk to me. Social media relies on SEO, search engine optimization, and other tools to make it easy for people to find you. My experience is you'll sell more if you use that strategy and you're proactive in reaching out to meet people who aren't looking for you. That gives you a 1-2 punch that drives your top line dramatically. So make sure you don't just rely on social media platforms, but in addition to that, you're going to embrace the concepts I'm presenting in this video and in others that allow you to proactively interrupt the prospect's brains, if you will, inject your value proposition, and move them into your funnel. Make sure you have a good video platform and a camera on your PC. I believe in utilizing list appending applications that allow me to plug in a company name, but coming out of that software will be all of the contacts associated with that company. The better products will give me the contact's name, title, email address, and phone number. So you can grow a very large list that is laser focused on the titles you want to sell to by going through one of these list appending applications. Any CRM system is great, especially if you know how to use it. I can't tell you how many people have CRM systems and don't use them correctly. Some of the better CRM systems embrace closed loop marketing. If yours doesn't, closed loop marketing technology is available in standalone formats for very small fees on a month to month basis. Most importantly, I believe that you should have somebody's cold emailing tool that will allow you to introduce your value proposition to strangers on a list that you purchased or built. Okay, let's get ready to do some selling, and we're going to do it from our home office. Uh, as with all of the training I offer, and we have a complete 10 module course that is called Results Oriented Selling. If you don't offer your prospects an understanding of the results that you produce, then they won't be interested. Results have value, everything else is just a talking point. And make sure that you understand from the prospect's point of view how they view the results you're promising. The faster you can get a prospect to say, I'm not interested, heck no, get out of here, don't talk to me again, the better off you are. Now, I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, but I don't want you to spend your time trying to sell to somebody who can't buy, won't buy, or shouldn't buy. That will discourage you on the whole process of teleselling, distance selling, remote selling, and you may abandon this very powerful tool prematurely. Make sure that your prospects understand the cost to them of saying no to doing business with you, or at bare minimum, the cost to them of saying not now. You see, if the prospect says not now, or if they say no, and you haven't communicated results and they haven't accepted the value of the results, then shame on you. You're letting someone who's willing to talk to you get away because you haven't given him or her the value that you want. Now, in one of the modules where we deal in depth on managing the process of change, I suggest that you do some homework and build case stories. Case stories should illustrate in a before and after fashion the value that you have delivered to your prospects, you and your team. And always keep in mind the three P's when you're talking about value. Value is the combination of people. The people that work with you, your teammates, are unique and your competition doesn't employ them. So let's stress the value, the way in which your company recruits, hire, and trains support teams. The second P stands for process or procedures. 10 to 1 in a dollar, your company has processes and procedures designed to optimize the results your customers get. Make sure your prospects understand that. And the third P stands for products. Now, your product may be identical to a product your competitor sells. This is the case in many companies today. But the people that do the support and the procedures that get the products to the customer are unique, and that produces value, and value is always equal to the results. Now, as you're getting into the remote selling world, make sure you over communicate. I'd rather you send too many emails and have your prospects say no, stop, slow down than not enough. Make sure you have thank you emails pre-written and stored in your CRM system, so after a good phone call, you can send them a thank you email. You should have a stay in touch campaign. And we talk about stay in touch campaigns, and I actually have samples of them along with the flow charts in the module that speaks to building and maintaining a closed loop marketing system. But suffice it to say that closed loop marketing has been studied and documented by no less than the Harvard Business Review, and it shows that companies that use closed loop marketing or a stay in touch campaign increase their top line by 36%. You should have an email that says, I tried to reach you, sorry we missed connections. You should have what I refer to as info packs. An info pack is a pre-written email that presents your product, your service, and most importantly, your results. When a prospect says, this is interesting, send me some information. Make sure it's all assembled and ready to go, as opposed to scrambling around trying to figure out what you want to sell your prospect. A newsletter is a great thing to send to all the people that you talk to. Again, we want to increase our reach and increase our frequency. The more people you touch per month, the more often they'll visit your website and the more often they'll become prospects. So reach and frequency are going to be a common theme, and I talk about that in the modules on building a cold emailing program as well as building a marketing plan. You should have follow-up emails in place and standard proposals if and only if they're appropriate. Now, this is a new remote salesperson. He's working from home, and he's done what I did when I first started working from home. A little bit of my personal story. I resigned from IBM in 1978 and started my own practice. I realized that as a new business, I couldn't afford the rent here in Los Angeles, so my dining room table was de facto my office. And I had wire bins just like this gentleman that I put on the desk, aka the dining room table, every morning and remove them every evening. I was extremely uncomfortable working by myself from my home because up until that point in time, work had always been a place I went to. I got up in the morning, I put on an IBM suit, I drove to the office, and I interacted with other salespeople and support people, and I sold. So now for the first time, I had nowhere to go. A little secret, in my first probably month or two, I got up, put on a suit, and sat at my dining room table and made sales calls. When I got a little more casual, instead of wearing suit pants, I was wearing California shorts. And over time, I got much more comfortable in being very informal. But you have to have a home office. You have to have a good video platform. Now, a lot of the video presentations that I've seen that salespeople have done have neglected to have a professional background in place. I don't want to see your room and your mess when we're talking on the phone. So remember, you're going to give an image to your prospect. Is that image exactly what you would like the prospect to see, or do you need to work around that and change some things within your office? Your family should understand that you are at work. My habit is I start work at 8 in the morning. I work closed door, quiet, no interruptions for about an hour. I get out of the office and walk around the house, maybe go outside if the weather's good, and then get back to it. That's my habit. Build habits that work for you. Make sure somebody locks your pets up. I'll never forget, again, in my earliest days, I was trying to close a training contract with a very large bank here in California. We had a dog at that point in time. And as I was in the closing conversation with the senior vice president of the bank, my dog walked in and started barking. And boy, was that embarrassing. The prospect said, "What's that? What's going on?" And thank God I had the presence of mind to say, "Oh, I'm in a building that's protected by canines, and obviously they came here early today." So a little tap dancing got past that embarrassing moment. But make sure you control your pets. Again, if you're on video, make sure the image you present is the right image. Would you ever go out on a sales call in a wrinkled, dirty shirt? Candidly, I've seen people make video calls on me trying to sell me something that were ungroomed, unkempt, hair not done, and their shirt was dirty. There's no difference between a video call and a face to face call. Make sure you're presenting the image that is appropriate for your company. Make sure all of your documents are organized and ready to go. Now, I've just related some of the humorous, hopefully, situations that I've encountered from remote selling, but the pros of remote selling far outweigh the cons, if you will. Take a look at this pie chart. Now, this is the result of a survey that we did with over 400 salespeople before they became remote salespeople, before they started using video. They spent 32% of the day waiting and traveling. Now think about how much of your sales day you spend or you have spent waiting and traveling. The average was 32%. Now, if you took that chunk of time and turned it into sales time with prospects and or with customers, you would more than double the amount of sales time available to that sales rep. What would happen to your revenue if you doubled the amount of sales time? And you see, properly executed, that's what remote selling will do for you. But now you have to manage yourself because you're by yourself. There's nobody looking over your shoulder, and we have to be in that mode of controlling everything that we're doing to get to where we want to go. Excuse me. The KPIs that we like to follow are first meetings, meaningful conversations. That's a conversation with anyone that is in a position to influence making a decision or actually can execute that. KPI to track is how many dollars did you add to the funnel last week? How many demonstrations or presentations did you make last week? And what does your funnel look like? Is it filling or is it draining? Your funnel should always contain the maximum volume of sales ready leads. And my rule of thumb is I want to see 3x volume in the funnel, 3 times the number of transactions I need to close per time period, whether that be a month or a quarter, in the funnel at all times. Another interesting KPI is the number of visitors to your website. Now, we're not going to go into a deep dive on how to sell to large accounts or strategic accounts in this module, but there are other modules on our learning platform that address this in detail. But make sure that you use the benefits of remote selling to meet and build relationships with as many people in each account as possible. Make sure you follow our large account planning guide, which is available in that same large account selling module. The metric or KPI is how many names within the account have you added to the database. The more relationships you obtain and maintain, the better off you are. Now, the third bullet on this slide speaks to establishing LinkedIn follows. A LinkedIn follow is a service that LinkedIn gives you that will follow a company or a contact if you have a relationship with them through whatever happens. So as things happen at that company, LinkedIn will give you a notification. The best time to sell to a company is shortly after they got bought or they bought somebody or something big happened. Now, if you're new to this concept of selling over the video, make sure you build a mastermind group. It could be one or two other salespeople, but I want you all to practice with each other. Give presentations to each other over the video. Record your practice presentations and look at them. How does the background look? How do you look? The way the lighting is in your house is probably not ideal for video. So play around with moving lights. As a rule, you want a good amount of light on your face and make sure that light doesn't come in dramatically from the side, as that will cause some problems. Now, people buy to solve problems. So they'll make the decision to buy whether you're across the desk from them or if you're across a video platform from them or if you're on the phone. But the question I have to ask you is, are you solving problems? And if you are, what companies that have had similar problems to the prospects you're working with got their problems solved as a result of your efforts or your team's efforts, your products and services? 30% of the prospects will make a decision to buy in order to gain something. This data comes from the Sales Lead Management Association. So I want you to review your proposals. Are you sharing with the prospect in a quantified fashion the value of the results that you'll produce? Now, whether you're selling face-to-face or over video or over the phone, if your proposals are telling proposals, your chances of selling go down dramatically. Remember, 70% of the people will change to to solve problems, 30% to gain an advantage. As you're moving through your database, the first thing I would do if I were in your shoes and starting to sell remotely is I would call all of my existing customers and ask for referrals. Believe it or not, 91% of customers surveyed said they would be happy to give referrals to their salespeople, the people that are coming to them from vendors. But only 11% of those vendors' salespeople ask for referrals. So the cardinal rule is ASK to GET. And once you have that lead, I want you to follow up on that lead like this puppy's following up on that bone. 80% of all sales close after the fifth contact, but 44% of salespeople quit after one contact. Don't be the normal salesperson statistically and quit after one contact. One of the benefits of remote selling is you can make many more contacts per day, per week, per month. And remember, the more people you touch, the more opportunities you get. So use this powerful tool to get in touch and stay in touch with a large number of people. Now, I'd like you to take a look at this chart. It was compiled by the Dartnell Sales Institute, and they found that 90% of salespeople give up after the fourth contact with a new prospect, 50% after the first. But look further down the scale there. Most prospects aren't ready to buy until you've touched them 7, 8, or 9 times. After the ninth contact, you probably are the only person still being considered. So, in a very real sense, the tenacious 10% are the people that never give up and win the majority of the deals. Remember, there are current buyers and there are future buyers in every account. Don't get discouraged when you're using telesales or video sales or cold emailing with the fact that most people don't raise their hand and say, I'm ready to buy. Only 3% of the people that you send email to or make calls to are looking for a solution to one or more business operating condition challenges. 97% will make a decision to change at some point in the future. So, part of the benefit of remote selling is again, you can touch so many people so rapidly, you can qualify them very rapidly, and you can assign them to a nurturing sequence utilizing closed loop marketing. The data shows that nurtured leads that are in that stay in touch campaign or a closed loop marketing campaign buy 47% more than leads that aren't nurtured. So when you encounter someone who says not now, that's okay. Just put them into this stay in touch campaign and you will overcome the number one sales challenge, which is the failure of salespeople not being involved with prospects when they want to buy. The people that said no last year are buying this year. There are people who have decided to buy products or services exactly like that which you sell, but your company hasn't been in touch, so they'll buy from your competition. During a tough economic time, it's crazy not to, at bare minimum, attempt, like the Dickens, to compete for every deal in the market. Now, the second problem is a self inflicted problem. And it comes from the fact that we all wake up and we intend to get certain sales tasks done every day. Now, if you're working from home, this is a double jeopardy problem. And this is why it's very important to have a conversation with your family to help them understand that I'm at work. I can't come and fix the TV. I can't pay attention to the dishes that need stacking up or changing. The regular household duties must be postponed until after the sales day because those random inputs will reduce the amount of selling time you have available. And nothing is more precious than sales time. Treat the hours of 8 to 5, 5 days a week, as sacred time, and you can avoid the problems that come from the gap of good intentions. You can't do two things at once, and the most important thing is for you to get in touch and stay in touch with people. And again, you can get in touch with so many more people utilizing remote selling than you can with face to face selling. You can get more people to this magical intersection. Let me explain this. When you first contact a new decision maker, he or she doesn't trust you. No one will trust a stranger on the first encounter. But over time, if you prove yourself to be reliable and if you use closed loop marketing to educate that prospect, over time, trust will come about. Now, we have trust, but the timing may be wrong. Your prospect, their company, may be planning on a physical move. They may be planning on releasing a new product. So, although you want to sell your product or service right now, you aren't at this intersection of trust and timing. Now, the beauty of being a remote sales professional is you can obtain trust and maintain trust remotely until such time as the timing is right. You don't want to get to the intersection when the timing's right, but there is no trust. Conversely, you don't want to be at the intersection when trust is high, but the timing's wrong. Now, one of the issues with all selling, face to face or remote, is I can't control the timing. I can, through work, diligence, and honest commitment to helping the prospect run their business better, I can inject doses of trust until such time as they view me as a trusted advocate. At that point in time, it's up to me to maintain that until the timing's right. Now, just like face to face selling, there's a flow to every sales engagement. It starts with the first meeting. After the first meeting or during the first meeting, you need to engage the prospect and qualify them. You need to educate them. You need to present your value propositions, proposals, and quotes. You need to close and you need to follow up. Very much like the manufacturing line you're looking at, if you follow the flow, you'll achieve the result that's desired at the end of the run. You see, the rules are go step by step. Never skip one of these steps. The salesperson who skips a step is a salesperson who will offend a prospect and lose an opportunity. Gain agreements at each step. In other words, I will be happy to put a proposal together if you would commit to exploring, and I use that word deliberately, exploring building a relationship with me and my company. It's okay for you to stop. Don't move forward without absolute synchronization with the customer. If the customer is not ready to move to step two, don't go there. Utilize clarifying questions, and we talk about all of this in our results-oriented sales training modules, and there are 10 of them, about 45 minutes each, to show you exactly how to execute what I'm talking about here. But if I could, would you, establishes a quid pro quo. If I could do this, would you explore building a relationship with me? If I could do that, would you move forward? You see, another module that we offer called Managing Change, which is a very powerful concept in selling, as a sales professional's primary job is to manage change. You're going to learn to do that by applying FUD and POM. FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and POM stands for peace of mind. FUD chases people away. When we feel fearful or uncertain or doubtful, we avoid moving forward. POM, on the other hand, attracts people. Make sure you know how to use both of those in appropriate fashion. Moving forward to the first meeting, which occurs over a video platform, as you can see here, your number one job, as in face-to-face selling, again, nothing's really changing, is to qualify the prospect in or out of your life. Thou shalt not sell to everybody is one of my cardinal laws. The way I determine this is to use the MANT formula. Does the man or woman that I'm talking to have the money needed to do a transaction? Do they have the authority to spend that money? Do they have a valid need that I can address and resolve? And do they have a timetable in mind that works for me? MANT, money, authority, need, and timing. Are there previous decisions that you can discuss with this person that will give you some insight into their role? Do they make their decisions based on the delight or lack thereof of their users? Do they make those decisions based on economic principles, strategic advantages, or technical principles? More often than not, it's a combination of all the above. Only when you get into large accounts do you find multiple decision makers that will take one of these roles, so you may have 4 or 5 people making the decisions. Regardless of where you're selling, but if you're in a remote selling environment and you have the prospect on the video or on the phone, you have to ask yourself this question repeatedly. Why am I here? Why is this prospect talking to me? What results does this prospect want? Remember, our entire focus is on articulating and quantifying and closing based on the projected results that you, your team, and your products can deliver. What are the value of those results? From the prospect's point of view, remember, one man's garbage is another man's gold. So if your results become garbage in the eyes of this prospect, you need to go find someone who will view your results as gold. What is their pain regarding the status quo? If they aren't uncomfortable with the status quo, they won't change. How severe is the pain with the status quo? If it's very severe, they'll change very quickly. If it's minute, then they probably won't change or won't change rapidly. How often have they tried to resolve the pain, and what's the cost to them of saying no or not now? And as early as possible, I want to find out the answers to these questions, and you should have them in mind before you conclude your first meaningful conversation. I want to know what the cost to the prospect will be of not resolving whatever issue it is that prompted them to take your call. The only way you can get those answers is to master these questions. Again, in our basic sales training, we talk about the power of questions: who, what, where, when, how, and why. Salespeople that ask questions get information. That information can be used to qualify the prospect in or out of your life. You can't determine the MANT formula without asking questions. Now, I love this picture. This particular being has no problem listening. Look at those ears. The salespeople need to practice listening a la this puppy. You see, God gave us one mouth and two ears. And I think when you're selling, you should use those attributes in that proportion. When you're listening, use verbal prompts. And I have a whole module on how to listen proactively. Some samples of that would be, tell me more. How does that make you feel? Now, when they say something that you can use later in your presentation, tie down their message. A tie down, and again, we go into detail in another module, a tie down is simply asking a question like, so if I understand you correctly, your concern with your current situation is, and then I fill in the blank. If they say, yes, that's exactly my concern, several good things have happened for you. One, you have told the prospect that you're listening and you're paying attention to them, and that's important. We all like other people who pay attention to us. And the second thing is it shows them that you are a professional and that you may be able to solve their problem. And always in that tie down with words that establish a quid pro quo. If I could show you how to fix that, would you explore building a relationship with me? You see, if the prospect doesn't give you anything to hang your hat on, you can visit them until you know what freezes over, but you won't get the results you want. Therefore, I want you to tell them up front, as early as possible, that it is okay for them to say they're not interested. Mr. Prospect, in order to make sure neither one of us invests time unwisely, I'd like you to understand that I'll be perfectly okay with you saying I'm not interested, or heck no, or get out of here, whenever you feel that we don't have a basis to build a relationship upon. Agree to disengage gracefully. It saves you time and it saves them time, but most importantly, it reduces or removes the pressure on both the prospect and on you to move towards a transaction. Try your best to define and quantify the cost to the prospect of saying no or not now, because somewhere down the road they may say no, but I want you to be able to come back and say, well, based on what you told me when I was here last week, if we don't resolve this, you're going to continue to pay too much in overtime. Did I hear you correctly? And you see, I'm back into the game because I listened and I quantified. And that quantification helps me become a winner in this sales situation. They may lose some ambitions. They're trying to get a promotion. Their reputation may take a ding. Competition may take market share. Or success in their realm would be postponed. All of these could be defined as the cost of no. Now, one of the things I like to use in a presentation, video presentation, is what I call the magic wand approach. Mr. Prospect, if you had a magic wand and would make this situation go away, what would your world look like? This prompts the prospect to tell me what they're trying to get to. Now, as a little bit of a refresher and a little bit of a preview of other modules, you have to define their desired results. Prospects buy to achieve results that they value. They don't buy because of something that you like. They don't buy because of features. They buy because they perceive that your product or service will produce value for them. You must ask for business just like asking for referrals. You must recap your relationship with them, present new ideas, and gain referrals. Always have a plan for each prospect. Never call or visit just to be visiting. And when I say visit, I'm talking about a televisit over a video platform. The goal of each call should be in your mind, or sometimes I write them down so I won't forget while I'm talking to the prospect. But never execute the check in move that poor salespeople make. Hi, I was just calling to check in to see how we're doing. Well, that's telling the prospect you don't have much time for them and that they don't need to invest much time in you. It's a bad move. Make sure you have a reason for calling, some new exciting ideas, something that will help them. You must always find out what pains they're looking for. What problems do you want to solve? And at some extent, you almost have to be a business doctor. How long has the problem existed? How does the problem cost you time, money, headaches? And to what degree have you tried to remove that pain? I won't go into detail here, but I want you to be a master of utilizing trial closes, and we discuss that in depth in our closing module in the results oriented sales training course. But trial closes are questions that you ask that basically tell you that you're on course towards the ultimate close. They're questions that don't destroy your sales efforts if the customer says no or not now. The quid pro quo question must be on the table and must be agreed upon. And sometimes you'll use it to create pain where prior to your meeting or your phone conversation or your video conversation didn't exist. Now, one last really vital point. In many of the companies that I've coached over the last 45 years, proposals and quotes are prerequisite from their customer's point of view to getting a sale. Never send your proposal or your quote before your phone call, especially if it's a new prospect or new concept. If you're replenishing toner, if you will, for a customer that you've served for 5 years, then you can just go ahead and send it. But if it's a new concept, a new quote, a new product, I want to review the selling document, aka proposal or quote, online with the prospect page by page, point by point. And the secret sauce is for you to ask them, do they agree on each point on each page, so that at the end of your meeting, you can sum it up by saying, it looks like you're in total agreement, let's move forward. The failure of a lot of salespeople is to send that document out beforehand and they have a chance to pull it apart, look at it, and tragically, they more often than not will misinterpret some of the information you put on the screen. So that's my story, and as we say here in Hollywood, I'm sticking to it. But if you'd like to know more about all of the 60 plus other modules that we offer, feel free to call me at 310 447 4102 or drop me a quick email, gil@gilcargill.com. And as always, I'll wish you good luck and good selling.